Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Again, my name is A03 Gonzalez. I'm a second-year PhD student in communication at the USC Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism.
And my name is Claire Beck. I'm a third-year PhD student at Roster School of Education, USC.
And we're going to be presenting on the economic and academic experiences of students during COVID-19. So next slide, please.
So with this project, we wanted to understand what kind of challenges low-income families and students from low-income families have been experiencing during distance learning and during this difficult time. Specifically, we wanted to look at students' engagement and learning outcomes and what's really working for these students and not working for these students in terms of motivation and learning outcomes. For example, the type of devices they have and access to technology and support they receive from their parents in school and how that's related to their motivation and learning outcomes. And also, we aim to recommend strategies to improve distance learning for these students in the future. Next slide.
So we employ a random stratified sampling of families and children enrolled in K through 12 public Los Angeles Unified School District schools administered by the Partnership for Los Angeles Schools, which was our collaborative partner organization. We also incorporated a stratification along grade levels, so elementary, middle, and high schools in South LA, Watts, and Boyle Heights. This was a telephone survey that was conducted in both English and Spanish, and we called our families twice before replacing the case if they didn't answer or were unable to take the survey. And over the course of the 3 weeks of fieldwork and data collection, we completed 974 surveys. Next, please.
So we had several research questions. One of them is looking into various challenges that families, low-income families and their students can face during distance learning. So it includes, like I mentioned before, internet access and devices and digital skills of parents and whether students had designated noise-free learning space at home for distance learning. Next, please. And other research questions include the relationship between students' engagement and learning outcomes and hours of live instructions they received from their teacher and school weekly. So how are a number of live instructions associated with their learning outcomes on core subjects and their engagement. Next, please.
So we found, as far as our economic distress variables are concerned, we found that since the school campus closures in March of this year, 16.4% of families responded having had difficulties with housing. Nearly 27% reported issues with mental or physical health. Nearly 77% had faced challenges or disruptions with unemployment and income. And almost nearly 3 in 4 families experienced challenges with food insecurity in the home now that their students, were no longer receiving breakfast and lunch from school. Next, please. We also found that across grade levels in elementary, middle, and high school, about a quarter of families reported having no internet or mobile data only, so relying on their phones as hotspots or to take their coursework online. Next slide, please. However, we did find that the majority of students did have a PC or laptop at home. The difficulty was that 17% of students shared their PC with other family members. So this complicated the distance learning in households where there was more than one student in the home and they had to share one PC or laptop. Next slide, please.
We also found that less than half families reported that their students always had a place free of noise for their distance learning, which means that more than half of families reported that their students didn't always have a noise-free designated location for distance learning. So it could be challenging, especially for high school students. So 16% of high school students never had noise-free environment for distance learning. So for example, if they're taking an exam for their AP class, or if they're presenting for their science fair, then having to do it in a dining room with other family members around might be really challenging for these students. Next, please. Also, we found that parents reported to have limited digital skills. So 75% of our parents reported that they don't use computer at all. And this could be especially challenging for younger students, like elementary school students. If they have Zoom issues or other technical difficulties, they might need adult help, and this can be really challenging. Next, please. Okay. Also, we found that there's a positive, parents reported that they have limited hours of live instruction per week during distance learning. So their students, so for example, high school students only received 6.5 hours on average of live instruction from their teacher or from their school weekly. And elementary school students had even less, which is 3.5 hours average weekly. Next, please. Also, our preliminary analysis results shows that there's a positive relationship between number of hours of live instruction per week and students' engagement, homework completion, and overall satisfaction across subjects. So if a student had more weekly hours of live instruction with their teacher or with their school, that was, they're more likely to be engaged on core academic subjects and more likely to complete homework and more likely to report satisfaction across subjects. And interestingly, live instruction seems to be more relevant for elementary and high school students. So the effect for live instruction was larger for elementary school and high school students. Next, please.
So in conclusion, oh no, please go back one. In conclusion, we found that low-income families experience various challenges ranging from food insecurity to unemployment due to COVID-19. Students from low-income families had limited access to technology and devices, adequate spaces for studying or support for digital technology. And as Claire just mentioned, we found that hours of live instruction was an important metric for understanding student performance and engagement overall. Next, please. And we're pretty much we're pretty much done. This is our last slide.
Yeah, we just have some recommendations. Community and schools to find ways to provide different types of support for low-income families. For example, letting them borrow technology. And we're aware that some community and schools are already doing that, but it seems like some parents are not aware that that's a possibility. So find ways to communicate to parents that these resources are available, and also increase synchronous live instruction from school. So synchronous Zoom sessions with teachers, and then also other opportunities for students to collaborate with their classmates online.